Today, Google announced that JavaScript needs to be enabled to see the Google search engine result pages, which resulted in many panic attacks by SEO specialists and by a big party from other SEO specialists. So two big things happened. First of all, SEO tools stopped working. At least rank checkers stopped working. And SEOs thought that their project dove into the oblivion, but they didn't, because Google enabled JavaScript or required JavaScript to see the SERPs, meaning that the SEO tools scraping Google need to enable JavaScript to see the results, which isn't the case in most cases. So those tools have shown false data. So check your Google Search Console data and see if everything is all right. It should be like yesterday. And the second thing, because other SEOs made a party, is because they have stopped some versions of CTR manipulation. So CTR manipulation is when others manipulate the CTR results, meaning the normal CTR click rates are being changed by external software, meaning that not humans are only clicking on the Google search results, but also bots, and then manipulating the CTR towards better results. So why is that big news? Isn't that some old stuff which shouldn't happen anymore? No, from an SEO perspective, especially from the e-commerce SEO perspective, we can say that the biggest SEO factor for top 10 results is the CTR. So manipulating it is a big thing. So I've written a few things I want to talk about you today. The SEO tools stopped working because they have not, their bots, which are checking ranking results, have not enabled JavaScript. And therefore, they couldn't even reach the Google result pages, showing you anomalies, like that you jumped from place 3, 6, 7, something else, to place 0, so that you've been de-indexed, because their bots couldn't reach the SERPs. They can fix it very fast by enabling JavaScript for their bots, and then they can again show you the right results. But that could be somehow expensive. So crawling Google, scraping Google is very cheap if you disable JavaScript. Some technologies are used for that. I won't get very deep into the topic, but you should know the distinction between those two. So with having JavaScript enabled, it's much more expensive to reach the Google search engine result pages and gather the data than without JavaScript. So from today on, some SEO tools might be changing their pricing strategies because for them it's getting more expensive. And people thought that the real reason why Google did this is to disable SEO tools for doing that, so make them stop working. But that's not the real reason, because Google knows that those tools can enable it, and from tomorrow on they can scrape it again. It's a bit expensive than earlier on, but still it's possible. Others think that Google did it to reduce their operating costs. If Google serves the SERPs only to those who have JavaScript enabled, it's even more expensive for Google. But if they could ban SEO tools, scrapers, and CTR manipulation software from scraping their SERPs, that would be in the end cheaper for Google. But as we know, all the other tools I mentioned, the scrapers, the CTR manipulation tools, and all the other SEO tools, they just need to adjust to the change and they will scrape it again. So that's not the real reason. It will get more expensive for Google and it will be more expensive for all other SEO tools. What are CTR manipulation tools? Imagine that for a keyword, a high competitive keyword, you have high competition. Therefore, it's a high competitive keyword. And the CTR rates between the top 10 are not so different. And jumping from the third place to the second place means that you need to impress Google from the CTR side. And if you cannot do that organically, You can do that with the use of some, I could call it illegal software. So you can pay some software tools, some CTR manipulation tools, to click on your result and artificially increase your CTR, which means you can rank then higher for that. Isn't Google able to detect those? It seems not. So at least Google can detect the very stupid ones, the very cheap ones. And from today, they can also recognize and identify those tools which are very cheap, using cheap technology. I will go into that further, but the expensive ones will still work. So Google is not eliminating the CTR manipulation completely, it's just disabling it temporarily, meaning that those cheap tools will now be known to Google and everyone using them will be exposed because they stopped working today and they will probably not work tomorrow or for a few days more. And if your CTRs suddenly dives from 12% into 2% and stays there for a few days, Google will know that you have manipulated the CTR and maybe give you some penalties and even maybe de-index you or give you a manual penalty. And they're doing that to see how much that CTR manipulation, the cheap one, is used. And that's what they're gonna achieve. They will see in just a few hours who is manipulating the CTR and how many people are doing that. Why is that big news? Because Google has trouble doing that, identifying the CTR manipulation for more than 10 years. I've been speaking about it even publicly in front of Google employees on SEO conferences in Germany about the topic, but they seem not to care. They tell us that CTR manipulation is not possible. Well, that's a lie. It's possible, and because CTR has so much weight in the algorithm, it's important. Why do they tell us it's not possible? Because CTR manipulation is not being done only on the organic results, it's also being done on the paid results. So you got more clicks on the paid results, Google gets more money. Now Google tells us they have click fraud detection and that 0.02% of those clicks are fraud clicks, that they can identify them and that they give back the money to those ad accounts. But that's also not true. The real rate of fraud clicks inside Google on ads is at least 12%. Many tests have been done in that area. You can look it up, but it's way higher than what Google is telling us. There are some softwares out there to detect those clicks, to combine them, and then you can get a refund from Google. And Google is accepting those reports, meaning they are telling us, okay, it seems that for your niche or for your ad account, it's a little bit odd and you can get the money back. But if you look up those softwares and see that they have thousands of clients, it's obvious that those are not single occurrences of that thing. It's way higher. But Google is not taking care about that as they should because they profit from it. Okay, we won't dive into politics. It's also dangerous to talk about the topic because it's so important. We have now today a big discussion on my LinkedIn profile, and some users needed to delete their comments because they were exposing Google and exposing a lot of those tactics, and it's very important to talk about it, but it's a sensitive topic. I won't dive into politics. I want just you to give an overview to see what you can do about it and what the real SEO environment looks like. We already told the CTR is the biggest off-page ranking factor for e-commerce SEO. Yes, it's even bigger than backlinks. You can look up the SEOLAXY school lesson number 4 about that topic and see why. So just a summary of that. So to come into the top 100, you need some great on-page optimization. To get into top 20 or top 10, you need a little bit of backlinks, good backlinks, high quality backlinks. But once you enter the top 10 results, CTR is the main off-page factor which determines if you are going to jump from place 10 to the higher places. Again, you can look it up in the video. So many of you may be asking yourself, isn't that illegal? Clicking on your results and then clicking on the competition? So from a legal standpoint, as I know it, in the US, clicking on your own results is in the grayish area, but clicking on the competition results is a felony. So in the European Union, it's similar to those laws in the US. So what exactly are those CTR manipulation tools doing? The dumb ones, the cheap ones, do it like this. They enter the keyword into Google, then go to your result. Let's say you're on place number 4 and click on it, and that's it. That seems like a grayish area, could be allowed for the organic results. I will stop talking about clicking on paid results because clicking on everyone's paid results is a felony. If somebody is doing it, stop doing it. If you haven't received the information, that's unlawful. I will just talk now about the organic result. So the cheap ones are doing that. The little bit more expensive ones are doing it like this. They enter the keyword in Google, they go to place number 1, enter the website and bounce back to Google. Then they go to the second result, go into the website, surf a little bit, but bounce back to Google. They do it the same with the third result, and you on the fourth result, when they click on you, they get on your website. The more expensive ones, they even convert, giving Google a clear signal. I wasn't satisfied with place number 1, with results number 2 and 3, but the fourth one, it was great. I converted even. So you can imagine what those signals indicate to Google. So if that occurs more often than for place number 1, 2, and 3, certainly you will rank higher in a few days. It can't be a thing which happens one day in a week or every day in 1 week. It needs to be constantly. So if you're doing CTR manipulation, you must do it every day. You need to modify the results, modify CTR by sending constant traffic for that certain keyword to your website and converting, meaning also clicking on the competition before you even do it. And that sounds expensive, so it is. So if you use the expensive CTR manipulation softwares, for most of the keywords, it's not even feasible. So if you have a keyword which has 100,000 of search volume, manipulating those results is very, very expensive. But if the search volume is low and the CPC high, means that it's most often not really profitable to run ads, so you try to manipulate the CTR results. Don't do it because it's not feasible, it's unlawful, and it's unethical. You can come very far with using White Hat SEO, and you don't need those Black Hat SEO techniques. And Google will not be able to detect those ones, even they have many patents running. So now I'm talking about the most expensive ones, which are not publicly available and are very black hatty. Those softwares are just for some private use, for inner circles, and not detectable by Google because they are using the Selenium framework with the Chromium engine, with JavaScript enabled, with real dynamic IP addresses, which have a history on real Google accounts, making human movements. They have machine learning behind it, and Google is not able to detect those. But today, they will detect the cheap ones, and we will see what the penalty for those is. I talked about PPC. There it is worse. Guys doing Google ads, should at least find a software to detect those fraud clicks, report it to Google, and get your money back. I will just give you, before I tell you how you can do something about it, just a little bit history, how that all started. It was 12 years ago, I think, more than 12 years ago. But let's say 12 years ago, on a German conference, a guy presented how he's doing this. He has a big VPS farm with recorded movements, mouse movements of humans. He's replaying those movements over the VPSs, clicking on certain keywords of one certain website. So they are an SEA agencies and PPC agency. They detect a good client, and for months they're clicking on their results with that old machinery they have. After a few months, they write that company an email telling them, our smart software detected that your ROI dropped in the last 3 months. We have a solution for that if you work together with us and become our client. So those companies really had their ROI ruined, said yes to those offers. And what happened? Those PPC agencies, they just slowly reduced that click frauds and made the results better, and the client was impressed. That's not just illegal, that's a high sentence, high prison sentence, but by those guys it started. It's more sophisticated today and not detectable. Not even this method I described is detectable by Google. What can you do about it? Firstly, you can join our LinkedIn discussion and see what is really happening, what people are reporting, what is known to us. Secondly, you can watch our 4th episode of the SEOLAXY school to inform yourself about CTR. And there you can learn how to optimize your CTR. So there are white hat methods. You can improve your CTR. Once you are in the top 10 with a keyword, it gets really interesting, and you should invest a lot of time for one single URL, for one keyword, to improve your CTR, like get aggregate rating snippets to get those stars for product landing pages. You can do a lot for product detail pages and so on by inserting USPs into a meta description and also pimping up your title text. How to do that? Watch in lesson number 4. Can you actively do something against CTR manipulation? First, you need to detect that someone is doing that harm to you. And when you have detected it, there is no way to report it to Google. So you cannot do anything about it. If a competitor decides to do CTR manipulation and you catch him, there is no way to report him. What should you do? Should you then also start with CTR manipulation? No, because it's not feasible in most of the cases. So what you need to do is just wait until the money from the competitor runs out, and then everything will be good again. But for some keywords, like for those keywords where you pay over $10, $20, $40 per click, in those niches, it's getting really ugly, and you can see that only in the top 10 are websites or are URLs which are using CTR manipulation. Those are sad news, but hopefully you are doing e-commerce SEO and you don't need to take care about that. It's more in the lead generation field, in the casino niche and so on, where everyone else is doing CTR manipulation. And if you want to learn e-commerce SEO, we have a complete course on YouTube about e-commerce SEO with the newest lessons, still recording lessons. And we just started a masterclass inside SEOLAXY. So visit www.seolaxy.com and you can see what you can learn in our masterclass. And you can join SEOLAXY and into our community, join hundreds others, learning e-commerce SEO, mastering e-commerce SEO, and living just fine with it. So at the end, I think after today, we will have part 2 of this video, because the LinkedIn discussion is just amazing. It's so fired up. There is no negative energy. It's just sharing experiences and seeing what we can not do about it. Inform yourself and know how big CTR. We also have discussions on Facebook based on it, but let it be. I will put in the description of this video the link to the LinkedIn discussion so you can read it and discuss it. And hopefully you will watch the CTR lesson, and then I will see you inside SEOLAXY. Thank you for watching. Until the next important e-commerce SEO news. Bye.